The alarm screamed through the United Nations Defense Complex at 3 in the morning. General Park Do-yun jolted awake in his quarters, his military training kicking in instantly. He pulled on his uniform and ran toward the central war room, his boots echoing against the cold metal floors. By the time he arrived, half the world's leaders were already gathered around a large holographic display, their faces pale and tight with worry. In the middle of the room stood something that should not exist in Earth's reality. A being made of crystalline light and geometric shapes floated 3 feet above the ground. Its form shifted constantly, edges catching and reflecting the room's fluorescent lights. This was Ambassador Krell from the Zephyrin Alliance, and his sudden appearance had triggered every alarm in the facility. "I apologize for the intrusion," Krell said, his voice like wind chimes mixed with distant thunder. "But your species has very little time to understand what is coming." General Park Do-yun stepped forward, his jaw clenched. "How did you get past our defenses?" "Your defenses are adequate for protecting against conventional threats," Krell replied, "but they are useless against what approaches your world. We have traveled across 17 star systems trying to stay ahead of them. They have already consumed 2 civilizations in the last solar cycle. Your Earth will be their next target." The general looked at the other leaders. President Choi Min-ho of Korea leaned forward. "What exactly is threatening us?" Krell moved closer to the holographic display. With a gesture, the display shifted. It showed a massive vessel, black and angular, covered in what looked like weapons and shields. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "We call them the Devourers," Krell explained. "They are not one ship. They are a faction that travels in a fleet of automated war machines. Their primary weapons are called city killers. Each one can destroy an entire metropolitan area in seconds. Your military cannot stop them. Your technology is too primitive." A wave of panic spread through the room. Admiral Seo Jin-ho of the Korean Navy stood up. "How many of these machines are heading toward Earth?" "The first wave consists of 3 city killers," Krell said. "They will arrive in approximately 72 hours. There will be more after that if the initial assault succeeds. Once the Devourers begin their work on a planet, they do not stop until all organized resistance is eliminated." General Park Do-yun felt his stomach tighten. 72 hours. That was 3 days to prepare Earth's entire military for an invasion that might be impossible to stop. He looked at the other military commanders around the room. He could see the despair in their eyes. "There must be something we can do," said Dr. Kwon Tae-sung, the director of the Korean Space Agency. "Some way to defend ourselves." "There are no solutions here," Krell said. "The Devourers have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your species is not the first to face them, and it will not be the last. However, I have given you the warning I promised to give to the civilizations I encountered. What you do with this information is your choice." The crystalline being began to fade from view. "Wait!" General Park Do-yun shouted. "Where are you going? Can't you help us?" "The Zephyrin Alliance has its own worlds to protect," Krell said, his form now barely visible. "I can only warn. I cannot fight your battles for you. Prepare yourselves as best you can. Pray if your species has that capacity." And then he was gone. The war room fell into chaotic noise. Everyone was talking at once, arguing, making plans, calling for emergency military mobilizations. General Park Do-yun stood still, thinking. 72 hours. It was impossible. But impossible or not, they had to try. He was about to order the evacuation of major cities when something strange happened. One of the doors to the war room opened, and a woman walked in. She wore dark clothing and moved with the grace of someone trained in combat. No one had called her. Security had not brought her through. She simply appeared, as if she had always been there. General Park Do-yun recognized her immediately, though she had been missing from official records for over a decade. Her name was Min Soo, and she had been one of his best soldiers, before she vanished during a classified operation in space. I heard Krell's message, Min-Su said calmly. I've been monitoring the defense complex's communications since the alarm sounded. How? The general demanded. Min-Su smiled. It was not a smile of happiness. It was the smile of someone who had seen the future and knew exactly what it would bring. General, all of you need to listen to me, she said, moving to the center of the room. You've been told that there is no defense against the Devourers. That is not accurate. I have information that you don't have. I have weapons that you don't know about. And I have a plan. President Choi Min-ho stood up. Who are you? How did you get inside this facility? My name is Min-Su, she replied, and I've been preparing for this moment for the last 10 years. When Krell told you that city killers are coming, he was right. But he also said something very important without realizing what he was saying. He said the Devourers have conquered 1,000 worlds. That means there is information about them somewhere. There are records. There are secrets. She moved to the holographic display and placed her hand on it. The image changed, showing something different. It was a blueprint of a city killer, but with detailed annotations and notes written in a language that looked almost like English. 10 years ago, my team and I found something on one of Jupiter's moons, Min-Su continued. We found an archive, an alien archive that contained data about the Devourers. It contained their weaknesses, and it contained something else. It contained the plans to build weapons that could fight them. General Park Do-Yoon stepped forward. Min-Su, what are you saying? Min-Su looked directly at him, and her eyes were steady and certain. I'm saying that when you told me the city killers were coming, and you said it was bad news, she said, her voice quiet but clear. I said it was good news. I said it saved me from having to hunt them all myself. I meant that. Because I've already built the weapons, General. I've already prepared the defense. I've been waiting for this day, and now it's finally here. The general stared at her in silence. Show us, he said finally. The interrogation room was cold and uncomfortable. Min-Su sat at a metal table, her hands resting calmly in front of her. General Park Do-Yoon sat across from her with 2 security officers standing by the door. It was not a comfortable meeting, but Min-Su did not seem to mind. She had been in worse situations before. Explain everything, the general said, and do not leave out any details. Min-Su took a slow breath. She had known this moment would come eventually. For 10 years, she had hidden the truth from the world. Now the truth had to come out, whether she liked it or not. 10 years ago, I was leading a classified military operation in deep space, she began. The mission was supposed to investigate strange signals coming from one of Jupiter's moons. Most people thought it was just space dust or natural phenomena, but I knew better. I had studied enough alien information to recognize that these signals were artificial. They were messages. General Park Do-Yoon leaned forward. What kind of messages? Warning messages, Min-Su replied. When my team and I landed on the moon, we found a structure buried beneath layers of ice and rock. It was old, very old. It had been there for thousands of years, maybe longer. Inside, we discovered a complete archive, a database of information collected by an alien civilization that had encountered the Devourers centuries ago. She paused, remembering that discovery as if it had happened yesterday. The moment they had opened those ancient doors, the moment they had realized that Earth was not alone, and that something terrible existed in the darkness between the stars. The archive contained everything, Min-Su continued. It contained star maps showing where the Devourers had attacked. It contained scientific data about their weapons and their ships. It contained historical records of 17 different civilizations that had tried to fight them. Only 3 civilizations survived, and their survival was not because they were stronger or more advanced. It was because they understood one simple thing. What thing? The general asked. The Devourers are not invulnerable, Min-Su said. They have a weakness, a critical vulnerability in their control systems. Every city killer is connected to a central neural nexus. This nexus controls everything: the targeting systems, the propulsion, the weapons. All of it depends on this one connection. Destroy the nexus, and the city killers become nothing more than empty metal shells. The general's eyes narrowed. You're telling me that these supposedly unstoppable machines have a fatal flaw? Not a flaw, Minsu corrected. A weakness. It's deliberate. The Devourers designed their ships this way because they never expected anyone to figure it out. The Nexus is buried deep inside their mothership, protected by layers of technology that would take a conventional military months to penetrate. But if you know exactly where it is and exactly how to attack it, it can be done. General Park Do-Yun sat back in his chair. The implications of what Minsu was saying were enormous. If what she said was true, then Earth actually had a chance. How did you know all this? He asked. And more importantly, why did you not report this to your superiors when you discovered it? Minsu's expression became harder. Because I did report it, General. I reported it through every official channel available to me. And do you know what happened? Nothing. The government denied that the archive existed. The military said it was classified and that I should never speak of it again. The politicians called it a hoax. They wanted to forget about the Devourers. They wanted to believe that space was safe. She stood up from the table, and the security officers moved forward to stop her. The general waved them away. I realized that no one was going to take action, Minsu continued. I realized that when the Devourers came, the world would be completely unprepared. So I made a choice. I left the military. I disappeared. And I got to work. You built weapons, the general said. Not just weapons, Minsu replied. I built a defense network, a system of automated platforms scattered across the Earth and in orbit. Each platform is equipped with advanced technology recovered from the archive and adapted to work with human engineering. They are designed to do one thing and one thing only: protect this planet from the Devourers. The general stood up now, his face flushed with anger. You have been building military weapons outside of official channels? You have been working with alien technology without government oversight? Minsu, do you understand what you have done? Yes, she said calmly. I have saved humanity, and I have done it alone because no one else would do it. The door to the interrogation room opened, and President Choi Min-ho walked in, followed by several other officials. The general stepped back, surprised. We have been listening, the president said, and we have reviewed the evidence that Minsu has provided to us. General, she is right. We have failed. We have been warned multiple times about threats that exist beyond our world, and we have done nothing. Minsu has taken action where we would not. He turned to Minsu. Where are these weapons you speak of? Can they actually stop the Devourers? They can, Minsu said. I have 3 teams of engineers and fighters who have been working with me. My chief engineer is Jiwoo. My tactical coordinator is Hyun-A. My weapons specialist is Taeo. Together we have created something that I believe can give us a real chance to survive this. Show us, the president said. Show us everything. Minsu nodded and moved toward the door. As she passed General Park Do-Yun, she stopped for a moment. General, I know you are angry with me, she said, but I need your help now. I need the military. I need your resources and your organization. I cannot do this alone. The Devourers will be here in less than 70 hours. We need to prepare. The general looked at her for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. Tell me what you need, he said, and we will make it happen. Minsu led them through the facility and down into a section that supposedly did not exist. Behind hidden doors and secret passages, they discovered a command center. The walls were covered with screens showing satellite feeds and tactical information. In the center of the room, a woman sat at a control station. She was young, with intelligent eyes and quick hands. This was Hyune. "Status report," Min-Soo commanded. "All platforms are online and ready," Hyune reported. "We have defensive stations in orbit and positioned across all major continents. Our systems are synchronized and awaiting deployment orders." The president stepped forward, his eyes wide. "How many platforms are we talking about?" "Enough," Min-Soo said simply. "Enough to make the Devourers regret coming here." Outside the facility, thunder rumbled in the distance. A storm was building. Soon a different kind of storm would come, and Earth would finally show the universe what it was truly capable of. The final hours before the Devourers arrived were the most important hours in Earth's history, though most of humanity did not know it. The world's governments had decided to keep the threat secret. They did not want mass panic. They did not want people fleeing cities or creating chaos. They simply told their militaries to prepare for an unspecified emergency and waited. Min-Soo stood in the main control center, watching as her team made final preparations. Around her, screens displayed real-time data from every defensive platform they had built. There were 47 stations in total, 47 weapons designed by human hands using knowledge stolen from the stars. Jiwoo sat at one of the main terminals, typing commands with focused intensity. His fingers flew across the keyboard, making micro-adjustments to the weapons systems. Every platform had to be perfectly synchronized. Every calculation had to be exact. One mistake, and their entire defense could collapse. "How long until they arrive?" Min-Soo asked. 37 minutes, Hyune answered from her tactical station. She had been awake for 30 hours straight, but her voice remained steady and clear. "The Devourers just broke through the outer sensor grid. We are tracking 3 city killers and supporting vessels. They are maintaining formation, approaching from the direction of the asteroid belt." Teo was in a separate command center, coordinating with strike teams positioned throughout Earth's orbital space. His voice crackled over the radio system as he gave orders to pilots and station commanders. "All stations report ready status. Weapons armed. Defensive shields online. We are prepared to engage on command." Min-Soo felt her heart beating steadily in her chest. 10 years of preparation came down to this moment. 10 years of work, sacrifice, and secrecy. 10 years of knowing that humanity was in danger and doing everything in her power to prepare for it. "Begin awakening the primary defense network," she commanded. All around Earth and in the spaces above it, weapons that had been hidden and dormant began to activate. Platforms launched from underground bunkers. Orbital stations powered up their systems. A network of interconnected defensive stations came to life, each one prepared to fight against an enemy that had never been defeated by a lesser species. The 3 city killers continued their approach, apparently unaware of the danger. They were massive vessels, kilometers in length, with armor that could withstand conventional nuclear strikes. They were designed to destroy worlds, and they had done so many times before. But they had never encountered human persistence and creativity. "They are charging weapons," Hyune reported. Her voice remained calm, but Min-Soo could see the tension in her shoulders. "First salvo will target major population centers in North America." "Begin counterfire," Min-Soo said. What happened next was like nothing that had ever occurred in human military history. Weapons that humanity did not officially possess opened fire. Plasma bursts streaked through space. Electromagnetic pulses crashed against the city killers' shields. Kinetic projectiles traveling at near light speed accelerated toward their targets. The first city killer took a direct hit to its starboard side. Its shields flared bright blue, absorbing the impact. But the shield did not hold completely. A small section of armor was scorched and damaged. "We have gotten through their outer defenses," Yun-A called out. "Repeat the pattern of fire. All platforms engage simultaneously." The battle had begun. For the next 2 hours, Earth's hidden weapons and the 3 city killers fought a battle that would never be fully known to most of humanity. In the spaces above the planet, in orbits that commercial airlines never reached, a war was being fought. The city killers were powerful. They were ancient and heavily armored. They had weapons that could destroy continents. But they were not invulnerable, and they were not fighting against a species that was unprepared and helpless. They were fighting against people who had dedicated 10 years of their lives to understanding them and building weapons to stop them. Minsu watched the tactical display as her platforms coordinated their attacks. Hyune guided the battle with the precision of a chess master, positioning each station to maximize damage and minimize losses. Teo's strike teams moved like predators, striking where the city killers were weakest and falling back before they could be counterattacked. Jiwoo monitored the weapons systems, making constant adjustments. When one platform's power systems began to fail, he rerouted its functions through backup systems. When another weapon's targeting mechanism malfunctioned, he corrected it from the control center. The second city killer took a serious hit when one of Minsu's orbital stations managed to strike its main propulsion system. The massive vessel slowed its approach and began venting atmosphere into space. It was damaged, but it continued to fight. The third city killer executed an evasive maneuver that surprised Minsu's team. It was more intelligent than they had expected. Its defensive systems adapted to their attacks faster than predicted. It redirected power from non-essential systems and reinforced its shields where the human weapons were striking. "It's learning," Hyune said, her voice carrying a note of concern. "The AI system in that vessel is adapting to our tactics in real time." "Then we change our tactics," Minsu replied. "Have all stations implement Pattern 7. Coordinate across 3 regional commands." The battle changed. Instead of attacking the city killers with the same pattern, Minsu's platforms began striking from different angles with different sequences. The rhythm of the conflict shifted. The city killers' adaptive systems could not keep pace with the constant variation. Hours passed. The first city killer took damage that finally penetrated too deeply. Its shields overloaded. Fire spread across its hull. The massive vessel began to fall toward Earth's atmosphere, its propulsion systems destroyed. General Park Do-yeon watched from the war room in Seoul, monitoring the battle through feeds connected to Minsu's control center. "First kill," he said quietly. But the victory was incomplete. The other 2 city killers were still fighting. They were wounded, but they were far from dead. And they were still dangerous. One of them managed to break through the defensive perimeter and get a weapons lock on a major city. "Incoming missile strike on Seoul," Hyune called out. "Moving to intercept." Minsu watched as 2 of her platforms accelerated toward the incoming projectile. They only had seconds. If they failed, thousands of people would die. The platforms fired. The projectile exploded in a brilliant flash of light, miles above Seoul. The explosion was visible from the ground, but it was high enough that the blast did not destroy the city. The people of Seoul had been saved without even knowing how close they had come to annihilation. "Keep fighting," Minsu commanded. "Do not let them recover." The battle continued into the night and through the next day. It was the longest sustained combat operation that any of Minsu's platforms had ever engaged in. Systems overheated, weapons needed to cool, but none of them stopped fighting, none of them retreated. Finally, after 14 hours of continuous combat, the second city killer's shields failed completely. Hyune coordinated a final massive strike from every operational platform simultaneously. The ancient vessel exploded in a shower of superheated debris. The third city killer made one last attempt to retreat. It tried to break away from Earth's gravitational field and jump to faster-than-light speed, but its main drive was too damaged. It could not achieve the velocity needed to escape. Minsu gave the final order. "All platforms, final strike, end this." 47 weapons fired as one. The energy released was enough to light up the night sky. When it cleared, nothing remained of the third city killer but glowing dust spreading through space. The battle was over. Earth had won. In the control center, Minsu's team stood in silence for a moment. Then Hyun-ai began to smile. Ji-woo let out a breath he had been holding. Tayo laughed, a sound of pure relief and triumph. "We did it," Hyun-ai said. "We actually did it." Minsu did not smile. She was already looking at the sensor data, searching for new threats. "No," she said. "We won the first battle, but Ambassador Krell said there would be more. We need to prepare for the next wave. Rest for 4 hours. Then we get back to work." The second wave came 6 days later. This time, there were 5 city killers. But they were not alone. They arrived with a massive mothership, a vessel so large that it made the city killers look small by comparison. This was the command center. This was where the Devourers maintained their neural nexus, the single point that controlled their entire fleet. The sensors on Minsu's platforms detected the mothership's approach, and a cold realization settled over the control center. They could win battles with single city killers. They could destroy 3 or 5 or even 10 if they came alone. But they could not win this war the way they had been fighting. Not against a full fleet protecting the mothership. "We need a different strategy," Minsu said to her team. It was late at night, and they had been awake for almost 30 hours straight. "We cannot damage the mothership enough to stop it with long-range attacks. And if we let it get close enough to charge its weapons, we will lose. We need to strike at the Nexus directly." Ji-woo looked up from his console, exhaustion clear in his eyes. "You mean a direct boarding operation?" "Minsu, that is suicide. The mothership will be defended by thousands of automated systems and armed Devourer soldiers. Even with a strike team, the probability of success is almost 0. "Almost 0 is not 0, Minsu replied. "And we do not have any other options. The Nexus is the only vulnerability that matters. Destroy the Nexus and the entire fleet becomes powerless." Hyun-ae stood up from her chair. "If you are going on a suicide mission, I am going with you." "No," Minsu said firmly. "I need you in the control center. I need your tactical mind. You are staying here to command the platforms." "Then I should go," Tayo said. He was the weapons specialist, the soldier who had trained for combat scenarios his entire life. "I can lead the strike team." Minsu shook her head. "No, I am going. This is something that I have to do myself." The argument lasted for 20 minutes, but Minsu would not change her mind. She was the leader. She was the one who had made this entire situation possible. It was her responsibility to finish it. They began preparing the mission. Ji-woo designed a special device that could exploit the vulnerability in the Nexus that he had discovered in the alien archive. It was a small machine, no larger than a briefcase, but it contained technology from 1,000 years in the future, or perhaps from 1,000 years in the past. Even Ji-woo was not entirely certain. The alien science did not follow the same rules as human science. A shuttle was prepared, equipped with advanced cloaking technology that would help it avoid detection as it approached the mothership. Tayo assembled a strike team. 5 soldiers, all volunteers, all knowing that they might not come back. The soldiers were Sung-ho, a veteran of combat operations in Africa. Hai-jun, a young but brilliant tactical thinker. Mi-jung, an engineer who could bypass Devourer security systems. Do-won, a heavy weapons specialist. And finally, Byung-woo, a medic and support soldier who had seen things that would make normal people weep. They suited up in environmental armor that was part human design and part Devourer technology. The armor was sleek and black, with integrated weapon systems and communication networks. It was beautiful in its lethality. "Remember," Minsu told them as they prepared to board the shuttle, "we are not going in to fight. We are going in to get in and get out, get to the Nexus, plant the device, and escape. Everything else is secondary." They loaded into the shuttle, the bay doors opened, and they launched into the void. The approach to the mothership took 20 minutes. Every second felt like an hour. The cloaking technology held, keeping them hidden from the Devourer sensors. But Min-Su could see the mothership on the visual screens, growing larger as they approached. It was absolutely massive. It was like flying toward a mountain. They landed in a cargo bay that was currently empty. Mi-jung worked quickly, bypassing the door's locking mechanisms. The team moved forward, weapons ready. The interior of the mothership was like stepping into a nightmare. The walls were organic and metallic at the same time, as if the ship itself was something between living and dead. The air smelled strange, filled with chemicals and ozone. The corridors were wide enough for their shuttle to fly through, which told them just how enormous this vessel really was. They moved deeper, following the schematics that Jiwoo had given them. The location of the neural nexus was deep inside the ship, protected by multiple layers of security. But the Devourers had not expected anyone to ever reach it. They had not believed it was possible. That belief was about to be proven wrong. The first automated defense system appeared in a corridor intersection. It was a gun turret, simple but effective, designed to protect the ship's inner sections. Sung-ho opened fire with his plasma rifle. The turret exploded in a shower of sparks and melted metal, but the explosion had alerting the ship's security systems. Alarms began to sound. "We are detected," Hae-jun said. "Security forces are moving to intercept us. Estimate 3 minutes until contact." "Move faster," Min-su commanded. She did not run, but her pace increased. Running was panic. Walking quickly was determination. They reached a sealed door. This was one of the final barriers between them and the Nexus chamber. Mi-jung moved forward and placed her hand on a keypad. The door's security system was advanced, but she had studied the alien designs carefully. She bypassed it in 40 seconds. The next corridor had guards, Devourer soldiers, things that were almost humanoid but not quite. They had too many joints in their limbs, and their eyes were too large and too black. They moved with unnatural grace and speed. The battle lasted less than a minute. Sung-ho and Do-won opened fire with heavy weapons. The plasma bolts tore through the Devourer soldiers, burning them to ash. The soldiers fell, but there were always more coming. "Keep moving!" Byung-woo shouted, dragging a wounded Hae-jun forward. A Devourer blade had cut through the young soldier's armor, but not deeply enough to be fatal. Not yet. They reached the Nexus chamber. The door was massive and covered in warning symbols that they could not read but definitely understood. This was the forbidden place, the most important place on the entire ship. Mi-jung worked on the lock. Her hands were shaking, but her concentration was absolute. The security system was more complex than anything she had encountered before. It took her 2 minutes to break through. 2 minutes that felt like 2 hours, while alarms screamed and the sound of pursuing Devourer forces grew closer. The door opened. Inside the chamber was something that made all of them stop and stare. The neural nexus was not a machine. It was not a computer. It was something alive, or something that had been alive once. It was a consciousness, spread across thousands of crystalline structures, pulsing with a light that was almost hypnotic. This was the mind that controlled the entire Devourer fleet. This was the intelligence that had conquered 1,000 worlds. "Jiwoo, can the device work against this?" Min-su asked, her voice steady despite the strangeness of what she was seeing. "Yes," Jiwoo's voice answered through her communication system. "Place the device directly against the primary crystalline structure. It will begin the shutdown sequence." Min-su stepped forward. The Nexus seemed to notice her. The light intensified. The crystalline structures began to vibrate, but Min-su did not hesitate. She placed the device against the largest crystal. The machine activated. What happened next was like watching something scream in an agony that transcended physical pain. The Nexus's light flickered and dimmed. The crystalline structures cracked. A sound like nothing human ears had ever heard filled the chamber. "We have to leave," Sung-Ho said. "Now!" They ran. Behind them, the Nexus was collapsing. The mothership was beginning to tear itself apart as systems that had been linked to the Nexus for thousands of years lost their connection. The corridors started to shake. Metal began to buckle. They ran through chaos. They ran through fire. Do-Won was hit by a falling section of wall and did not get up. Min-Soo looked back once, just once, then kept running. The shuttle was still there. They piled inside, and Byung-Woo, who was their pilot, immediately lifted off. The mothership's bay doors were closing, but the shuttle was faster. They shot through the closing gap with less than a second to spare. Behind them, the massive mothership began to collapse. Its systems were dying. Its structure was failing. The greatest weapon of the Devourers became nothing more than a tomb for the intelligence that had controlled it. "It is done," Min-Soo said quietly. "The Nexus is destroyed." Back in the control center, Hyunei's face appeared on the shuttle's screen. She was crying, tears running down her cheeks. "We are detecting a cascading shutdown across the entire Devourer fleet," she said. "All city killers are going dark. All systems are shutting down. Min-Soo, you did it. You won." Min-Soo looked at her remaining team. Sung-Ho was bruised but alive. Haejun's wound was serious but would heal. Mi-Jung and Byung-Woo were exhausted but unharmed. "Yes," Min-Soo said, "we won." But as the shuttle headed back to Earth, she knew that the real work was just beginning. The destruction of the neural nexus sent a wave of shutdown commands throughout the entire Devourer fleet. It was like watching a house of cards collapse in slow motion. Each system that lost connection to the nexus became inert and useless. Each ship that had relied on the central intelligence suddenly became a floating tomb. From her position in orbit, Hyunei watched the tactical display with growing amazement. The 5 city killers that had been approaching Earth moments ago were now nothing more than empty metal shells drifting through space. Their weapons were powering down, their shields were collapsing, their targeting systems were going silent. "All platforms, this is command," Hyunei announced. "Shift to capture protocols. We are not destroying the ships. We are securing them. Repeat, secure, but do not destroy." The change in orders surprised some of the platform commanders, but they obeyed. Instead of continuing their assault, the human weapons platforms began a new dance. They moved around the drifting city killers, using controlled energy bursts to nudge them away from Earth's populated areas. It took hours of careful work, but by the end of the operation, all 5 dead city killers were in stable orbits, far from the planet. Min-Soo's shuttle landed in the main facility 4 hours after launching from the mothership. She was exhausted in a way that no amount of sleep could fix. She had crossed into enemy territory and come back alive. That was something at least. General Park Do-Yun met her at the landing platform. "You destroyed the Nexus. We are receiving reports that the entire Devourer fleet has gone dark. There is nothing left to threaten us." Min-Soo nodded slowly. "Not exactly. The ships are not destroyed. They are just empty, powerless. But they are still valuable. Each one of them contains technology that we can study. Each one contains secrets that could take us centuries to understand." The general looked at the shuttle behind her, at the blood stains on the hull, at the scorch marks from weapons fire. "You lost people." "Yes," Min-Soo said simply. "Do-Won. He was a good soldier." For a moment they stood in silence, honoring the fallen. Then the general placed a hand on Min-Soo's shoulder. "Your sacrifice will be remembered, all of you. Humanity owes you everything." Over the next week, the reality of what had happened began to sink in. Earth had been invaded by the most powerful force in the galaxy, and Earth had won. Not because humanity was technologically superior, not because they were naturally stronger or faster, but because one woman had the vision to prepare, the courage to act alone when no one else would listen, and the determination to see it through no matter the cost. Scientists from around the world began arriving at the facility where the captured city killers were being studied. Historians came to document the event. Military strategists came to learn what had happened. Political leaders came to thank Min-Su and her team. But there was a problem brewing beneath all the celebration. The Devourers had not acted alone. They had been driven by something. During the archive exploration, Min-Su had discovered information about an ancient plague, a cosmic infection that seized alien minds and turned entire civilizations into weapons of conquest. The Devourers themselves had been victims, infected with this terrible consciousness centuries ago. Min-Su shared this information with Ji-Woo, Hyun-ai, and Tayo during a late-night meeting in the command center. "If that is true," Ji-Woo said, "then destroying the fleet does not actually solve the problem. There will be other fleets. Other civilizations will be infected. The real enemy is not the Devourers. It is whatever is controlling them." "So what do we do?" Tayo asked. Min-Su looked at the captured city killer data on the display screens. Somewhere in that information was the key to understanding the plague. Somewhere was knowledge that could help free other civilizations from the same curse that had transformed the Devourers. "We study," Min-Su said. "We learn. We prepare. Because if the universe contains something that can turn civilizations into weapons, then Earth needs to be strong enough to face that. We need to be hunters, not prey." President Choi Min-ho made an official announcement to the world 2 weeks after the final battle. He revealed everything: the existence of the Devourers, the threat that had been eliminated, the technologies that had made victory possible. It was a massive shock to the global population, but it was also a moment of profound unity. Humanity was no longer alone. Humanity had proven it could not just survive, but fight back against the darkness of space. The United Nations established a new organization called the Space Defense Initiative, with Min-Su as its director. Government budgets that had once gone to conventional military spending were redirected toward space weapons and defensive systems. Teams of scientists were assembled to study the Devourer technology. Military academies began training a new generation of soldiers who would be ready to defend Earth from whatever might come next. Min-Su stood on an orbital platform, looking down at Earth rotating below her. The planet was beautiful and fragile and more precious than any treasure in the universe. It was home. It was the place that had given birth to her, trained her, and finally given her the mission that defined her life. Hyun-ai joined her at the viewing window. "They are calling us heroes. Did you know that? Around the world, people are talking about us like we are heroes from old stories." "We are not heroes," Min-Su said. "We are soldiers. We did what needed to be done." "Perhaps that is what being a hero means," Hyun-ai replied. "Doing what needs to be done, even when no one believes it is possible." Behind them, the captured city killers orbited silently in their designated zones. Teams of engineers and scientists were already beginning the process of dismantling them, learning from them, using what they had discovered to make Earth stronger. In the years to come, these ships would teach humanity more about the universe than all of human history had managed to learn before. They would provide the foundation for new technologies, new understanding, new capabilities. But that was all in the future. For now, Min-Su allowed herself a moment of rest, a moment to look at her world and know that she had protected it, a moment to know that the people of Earth could sleep tonight without fear of annihilation from the stars. "What do you think is out there?" Hyun-ai asked, pointing at the vast darkness of space beyond Earth's atmosphere. "What other threats are waiting for us?" Min-Su smiled, that same expression she had worn when the general first told her about the city killers. That smile that said she was ready. That smile that said humanity would face whatever came next and would not back down. Everything, she said. Everything in the universe is out there, and we are going to be ready for it. The two women stood together in silence, watching over their planet, knowing that the greatest challenge humanity had ever faced had only been the beginning. The age of Earth hiding in its cradle was over. The age of Earth as a power in the galaxy had begun. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, other civilizations that had been conquered by the plague were beginning to wonder. They were beginning to hope that what they had heard was true. They were beginning to believe that resistance was possible. They were beginning to dream of freedom. Earth had shown them the way.